One of the first things I want to talk about is just building a framework. There are multiple components to building this framework. I'm going to talk about 4. The reason you want to have a framework for your diversity recruiting efforts is because the content, as soon as you say, hey, we've got an initiative or we've got an effort to go increase diversity in any particular functional area, lots of people have lots of ideas. Anyone can write a strategy. So a lot of people are going to come up with all the ideas that you need for writing a strategy. And they're going to come up with lots of places that you can go, and schools and organizations that you can participate with, and relationships that you should be building. So you're going to get a number of ideas, but you need to have the ability to make decisions on which organizations you're going to work with. Because to be successful, you've got to take this as a step-by-step approach. Small wins over a longer period of time will help you achieve the success, because there's a lot of learning that's going to take place. And you don't want to just, stymie someone's enthusiasm. So you need a way of kind of prioritizing and letting people know, hey, this is what we look for when we're looking for an organization or a school to participate in. So here are some of the criteria that you might select. This is going to be tailored to your organization. These are not the ones that everyone should do. This isn't a cookie cutter, but this gives you a framework that you can put content in. So here are some examples. Your criteria may say, hey, we are going to have 3 to 5 criteria that we use to decide which candidates we're going to include, which criteria we're going to use to make a decision on who we're going to engage with. So here's the thing. Branding and credibility is one that a lot of organizations will use as criteria. So if you say we're going to interact with this organization, and if we interact with them, we have to have the opportunity to show our brand and to show our credibility as an employer. Maybe hiring and recruiting is another criteria that you're going to use to decide whether or not you're going to participate with that organization. So if the organization doesn't have a component that allows you to hire or recruit talent, it might not be the organization. Professional development may be another thing that you're looking at if you want your workforce to have the opportunity to get professional development while they are participating with this organization. And then another one, you may want to showcase your social responsibility or your corporate responsibility so that the candidates understand more about your organization. So when you're trying to decide which way to go, 3 to 5 of these, I wouldn't make a huge list, but having this 3 to 5 criteria that you use to decide why would we engage this organization, so that when you get the list of 100 different places that you should go, you've got a way to decide, okay, it makes sense to go that they meet 3 or 5 of our criteria, or they meet all 5, or they meet 2. You'll have to decide with your organization. The other thing that you'll want to do as part of this framework is just create the approach that you're going to take. My recommendation is you take a multi-touch approach. A lot of times organizations will get the list of, here are some diversity groups that we want to participate with. They will go to the national conference. So let's take an organization that's well known, National Black MBA Association. A lot of organizations will say, hey, we're going to go to the national conference for the National Black MBA Association. Well, when you get there, you realize that the candidates aren't interacting with you as much. They don't know your brand, and they're not engaged in a way that you might have hoped. It's because you jumped a couple of steps and went straight to the national event, and then you walk away thinking, hey, we didn't get what we were looking for out of that organization. To be more effective and to have more impact, what you want to do is take this multi-touch approach so that they know you when you get to the national event. So there are local chapters for National Black MBA. Get some people from your organization to engage with that organization locally, learn a little bit about the organization, share more about your organization so that by the time you get to the next step, the regional organization, they know a little bit more about you. You're going to learn more at the regional organization. And then when you get to the national conference or the national event, they're going to know more about you. You're going to know more about their relations, about their organization. And it's all about building those relationships. Now, some of the organizations have international chapters, and you can certainly get involved in that. But today, local, regional, and national are the three places that I would engage to have this multi-touch approach as part of your framework. The next part of this framework is having the ability to establish priorities. So you may call this tiers, you may call it blue, gold, red, you may call it silver. You can call it whatever you want to call it, whatever works in your culture. The concept is you want the ability to establish tiers, meaning, hey, this is a tier 1 organization that we've decided to participate with. And the reason it's a tier 1 is because it has a company-wide strategic value. The people, the candidates, the talent in this organization, they are people that match all our functional areas or a high percentage of the functional areas. So you might be in IT, you might be in marketing, you might be in supply chain, you might be in HR, you might be in the product development group. You pick an organization that has all the talent that could fill any of those roles. And with this tier 1 organization, you may decide what that means is we're going to provide funding, we're going to provide people, we're going to provide corporate-wide engagement and branding, and we're going to provide all the resources necessary for us to work with this tier 1 organization. A tier 2 organization might be an organization that is specifically focused on, we'll take accounting and finance. So this organization might not have the talent that you're looking for all your other divisions and all your other functional areas, but they have the talent for the finance and accounting department. And that tier 2 organization gets budgeted and resourced from the functional area that has the need for that talent. It's not that critical to the IT organization. So IT doesn't want us to put their money or the resources into supporting the org, but the accounting and finance group does. And so they're going to fund it. And there might be a recruiter aligned to the finance division that would then participate and help them move the needle with that organization and build the relationships. And then the third one I'll talk about is a tier 3. And we've all got the tier 3, even in our own lives. It might be an organization that you said, hey, this is my alma mater, or it's our CEO's alma mater. They don't have the talent typically that we're looking for. There's not a strategic reason that we should be engaged other than the fact that the CEO wants to be part of that, which is important. So what you want to do is you want a way for those people to get people back into your system, into your process, while not spending lots of resources from the company to support it. So one of the examples might be, it is the annual event that your CEO goes to every year at their junior college. Nothing wrong with the junior college, but this particular school may not have what you're looking for all the divisions that you need, or even for any particular functional area. But you want a way to support people who are going, and you would offer advice and steps and procedures and possibly collateral that would allow them to represent your company the right way. But you're not going to dedicate and allocate lots of company resources for that event. By tiering, this allows you to also say yes to more people, because if you decided to limit the number of organizations and limit the number of schools that you're going to engage in from a tier 1 perspective, you've still got a way to allow people to engage in other organizations and do it in a way that's consistent with what you're trying to do as a company. This is probably one of the bigger things that you could do by setting up these tiers, and working with your organization. So the last part of this framework and the relationships is really, you need a way to work internally. And when you're working internally, there are a number of groups and a number of stakeholders that are going to be in your company. In this case, there are three different, I'll use this example of three different bodies that would be in your organization. So you want to have a steering committee or a working group or whatever you call it in your organization that is looking broadly across your company. You want to create some flexibility within the framework that you've created so that there is an opportunity to bring in fresh ideas and to do different things. You want the steering committee to be able to collect the best practices and share those across the company. And typically this group is focused on looking at compliance, looking at governance, sharing things across the company. A lot of times the budget would come out of this group, or at least would get recommended out of this group. The people that might be in this steering committee, it may be your executive leadership team, in addition to your head of diversity and inclusion, your head of talent acquisition. You probably have people who are representing employee resource groups here, and recruiters, and the college recruiting team. This is a group that is collectively sharing ideas that are going to get standardized across your company. In this yellow circle, that's the functional team. So IT may have their own group, marketing may have their own group, the finance team may have their own group, but this group sits in that P&L or sits in that division, and they're focused on trying to make things work for that organization and for that group. So functional strategies. So the finance team may be trying to increase the representation of women or Hispanics or African American or whatever demographic they're working on. They've identified places that they're going to go. Some of those places may be on your tier 1 list of organizations that you're going to engage in, and some may only be on the tier 2, or some may be on tier 3. But they're going to provide those functional resources and dollars and people to support their efforts. They're going to communicate with the steering group, and they're going to be communicating anything that seems to be working, challenges that they're having. And this third group, these engagement teams, the engagement teams are the actual boots on the ground. There may be people that came from the finance group or IT or marketing, and they're going to these local, regional, and national events. There's an executive sponsor that has a seat at the table with the steering committee, has a good relationship with the other functional teams. You may have a team captain if you've got a lot of schools or a few schools or a number of organizations or even a few organizations that are going to help organize and coordinate the efforts that are going to happen on the ground. The functional representation may be coming from all your different business groups and lines of business or P&Ls, whatever you call it in your organization. You may have alumni from particular schools. You may have alumni from particular organizations. And you may also include people from your employee resource groups. I've got ERG here. I should have spelled that out. But ERG stands for employee resource groups. Some companies will call it affinity groups. These are the people who are coming from diverse populations within your organizations that want to be part of these engagement teams, so that when you show up at the event, you have people who look like the people and have similar backgrounds to the people you're trying to recruit. So this part of the framework is really about moving your internal communication in a way that everyone is on the same page and best practices get shared across the organization, and challenges that the organization might have get shared across the organization.